Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LCTV studios. I'm Larry Seidling, your host today, and we are here to celebrate man, the legend, the guy who's synonymous with Lincoln Academy, Mr. Phil Page, my friend. Phil, congratulations, you're going to retire.
Correct, Larry.
That's almost like a shock to the system.
Yeah.
Been there a long time. How many years?
Well, 40 teaching, 42 with the coaching.
And in the studio today, we have some people that were really magical in your early years at Lincoln Academy that really got Lincoln off to a really good start from a turnaround season in basketball to wind up with a champion, the real magical years.
No question, Larry.
So before we introduce the rest of the guys here, which we're going to in just a second, I want to give you folks at home a little history. This guy and I have been together since first grade, 1958.
Okay.
We go back a long time, Coach.
Mrs. Hopkins.
Mrs. Hopkins, Castner Grammar School.
Yeah, that's correct.
Family, 3 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister.
Correct.
And all 4 of you kids were really athletic.
That's correct.
But your parents weren't super athletic.
Not really. I think that's the sign of the times. My mother didn't play any sports that I know of. She moved around a lot. Her father was in the Coast Guard, so they moved frequently. And my father was a basketball player, 6'3", so I'm not sure about fall or spring sports.
But your dad was real musical.
The music was number one in his life.
We're going to talk about that when we get into the show a little bit. With us today also is Chuck Wyman, who was the JV coach on that magical 1989 season. We got a shot, there we go. And next to him is the captain of that 1989 state championship team, the little general, Chris McKinney. And beside him is Mr. Excitement, Johnny Pinkham. And beside him is Kevin Feltus, who was Mr. Rebound there in that 1989 season. Phil, you came to Madomic Valley right out of college as a teacher. Was it your first teaching job?
That was my first teaching job, correct.
And you had some pretty good mentors in the coaching field.
Couldn't have had a better one.
Probably one of the best in the state.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts the first time you met Art Dyer?
Well, my first thought was scoring my first basket as a freshman coach. It was just a lot of pressure. And it wasn't until my second year working for Art, he allowed me to be on his bench, which was good. And particularly, he had the JV coach on there, Steve Mosley, but we're really glad.
You had to earn your seat.
I guess so, yeah. So it was, that was helpful.
You had some pretty talented teams back then, 73, 74? What year did you start there, 75?
77, 78.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. I actually started as a long-term sub there the year they played for the state championship against, I think it was Hamden Academy. And so I hit there at a very good time.
You saw some pretty good teams.
Yes.
Chuck, you was the JV coach in that 1989 state championship team. What was your take on that year?
Oh, it was a fantastic year. I think that the previous year was such a good season, and we came up just a little bit short. It seemed as though right from the get-go, that first Booth Bay game, people were locked in to go for the championship. And
that first Booth Bay game didn't go well in that 89 season, did it?
Kyle got in foul trouble that game. These guys might not remember it, but we were pressure, full court defense, and we were just too aggressive. And kind of backed off after that, realizing that you got to keep your horses in the game if you're going to win big games.
Chris, captain of that 89 state championship team, your thoughts?
Unbelievable. I mean, it was the whole community got into it. You look back on it, and I remember leaving Lincoln Academy the night of the state championship game, and they say last person turned the lights out. It was absolutely no one in town. No one. They were all up there, and we walked in there, and it was just, I've never seen the Augusta Civic Center so packed, but just a fun year. And we had played together so long and done so many things together that's the way it should be. That's the way it should finish. You know, we really earned that.
Hey, Johnny, your thoughts on that 88, 89 season? I mean, you guys, all 3 of you guys, had a fantastic high school career. You won some states in soccer. Basketball was successful all 4 years. Your thoughts, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, it was really fun. Great group of guys to, play with. There was 8 seniors on that team. You didn't appreciate it as much then as you do now
Looking
because
back.
it hasn't happened again. And you know, we worked hard. We had 2-hour practices, and we all pretty much knew what was going to happen at what minute in that practice. It was repetitive, and if you didn't work hard, we did it over. So we worked really hard, and it paid off. And as you said, we were very fortunate. Class ahead of us and some people behind us that we had some really talented athletes, and very fortunate to be in as many Western Maine finals and state championships as we were. So.
Kevin, you came in as a big man. Your thoughts?
I think the big thing with us was everybody knew their role. You know, Chris and Kyle were going to get the points. We were going to.
They better.
Adam and I were going to get the rebounds and putbacks. Hopefully, Johnny was a stud guard. You know, he could shoot the three. He could defend. We had Darren Gentner who. Would take every charge coming through the middle that anyone could ever throw at him, and we all knew our roles. We knew, you know, while we were on the court, we needed to give every bit of effort that we had, and it certainly paid off.
Coach Page, when you first met these guys, they were like third, fourth grade, fifth grade.
Well,
When did you know you had something special there with a bunch of group of kids like this?
Chris probably doesn't remember this. My first VHS tape was of him and Kyle doing basketball dribbles up to the gymnasium. So I don't know how old they were then. You probably don't remember.
Yeah, it was probably fifth grade.
Yeah.
'Cause I
And,
moved up from Bristol in fourth.
You know, and then of course with the summer basketball program, you could just see the development. You know, some basketball you kind of divided by age groups, and we weren't losing to anybody. So you know you got a good thing going when you see it coming at that age.
You start to dream about the big gold ball.
Correct. Well,
There's a possibility anyway.
Just work hard. Just try to do what I saw done at Madomic Valley. You know, just no question about that.
Chuck, what are your favorite memories of watching that all unfold?
Oh, I don't know. I think that that Booth Bay game was, as Phil had mentioned, it didn't. I don't think we even won down there.
No, we
but
lost. Yeah.
I think that it set us on a better track for the whole season. And then having been to the Civic Center in the previous year, going up there this second time, it was like home away from home. Locker rooms, accustomed to that, accustomed to the timing and everything, and things were just locked in pretty well.
Chris, I'll throw this question out to any three of you to answer. You had been there the year before, and there wasn't any schools around that had gyms with backboards that weren't right close. How much did it throw you guys off, shooting at that open backboard like that?
I mean, it does. It throws you off a little bit. But shooting's muscle memory, and if you get enough shots up, you know, I've said it to kids coaching, it's just muscle memory. You got to have that feeling when you let it go.
Do you feel the same way, John?
Yeah, I didn't have to shoot much because he did all the shooting.
But it was for a shot you didn't like, did it?
The shooting didn't affect him because, you know, he got the tip on the state championship game, had a layup, and he stopped and took a three-pointer. So,
Well, I think the Y helped with that situation.
Yeah, no question.
That's a little bit different backdrop
It
at
is.
that Y.
It is.
And I know I spent a lot of hours in that Y. So I think that helped.
Kevin, how about for you under the boards there?
I can tell you my sophomore year, I think we played Gorham in that game and got beat really bad.
Greeley was the.
Oh, Greeley.
Yes.
It was Greeley.
Yeah.
And I got in late in the game. You know, I was playing JV, and Coach had brought me up. And I can tell you that it messed with me because my first shot, they probably still got cracks in that backboard. But the first shot went pretty hard off that backboard. So
I think
yeah.
that was Cape Elizabeth we played.
Was it?
I think so.
In the first
When we
game,
got beat so bad.
it was either Greeley or Gorham.
Because I got my pocket picked at half court, and I remember the kid that did it to me.
Yeah, it was
And I
either
said,
Greeley
this
or
will
Gorham.
never happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ryan Gleason had a good game. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
remember. He
Yeah.
had about 15
Yeah.
points. Yeah.
Coach, you had 3 shots in your coaching career that you mentioned before the show. Tell the folks at home the 3 that stick with you the best.
Okay. The first was the shot hit by Dickie McKinney off an assist from Jamie Hilton. They'd missed a big foul shot, 6 seconds left. Jamie just dribbled down, Dick was having a phenomenal game, just phenomenal. Everything was going in, and just handed off. It was buzzer beater. It was a big win. We already had one big win at Richmond, showing that we could beat a good team. Richmond was very good back then, but this was our first big win at home, and it was just it was a turning point in the program when we won at home. Dickie McKenney was on the shoulders of people. It was like a state championship right there. To be honest,
That was a
with
big
you.
win.
It was a big win.
Well, you were new to the program. I mean,
Yeah.
you only been there a couple of 3 years.
Yeah.
and-
But hadn't got on the tournament floor, unfortunately, and we missed out on the tournaments 1 year by about a point. Not able to get to the floor because they were only taking 50% at that time, and so somehow we had to get to the tournament floor, start getting some experience, and that occurred when we were playing Erskine Academy, and it was a very, very close game, and they hit a big shot. I think one of the Bronson kids, and we had been up most of the game. And Ryan Gleason came down the left-hand side and took a big shot, did not go in, and Paul Hartley just had a putback to win. And that got us to the Civic Center floor.
Nobody was putting Paul Hartley on their shoulders, though. He's a big boy.
Paul
for a while.
he was a scrapper. I mean,
He was.
Just all heart.
Yep.
And no surprise he would come up with a big hoop like that for us. And then, of course, the third shot would be in the state championship game. Chris had a steal at the tap. They got possession, but he somehow got a hold of it. And as John so eloquently pointed out,
It could have been a layup.
only Chris McKenney would take this shot, I guarantee you that. But he hit the three-pointer to get us off, get us going. But I think what people cannot forget is what happened after that. I mean, that was such a tremendous start. But Kyle and Johnny Pinkham worked together, like the next two possessions, I think, with a little run, half-court run and jump. Kyle, pretty good defense on the ball. He stepped up, got the steal, 2 layups to Kyle O'Brien.
And 6-0, just like that.
We were off to a good start in the type of tempo we wanted, and they did not want. So
I've had some discussions about that 89, and rest in peace, Mr. Bradbury and I have had several conversations years ago. Was it 3 dribbles or 2 that Chris took after the steal before he decided a 3-point was much better than a layup? Chris,
I look at that shot, and it's probably the worst shot you could take. And I tell myself,
It's a
like,
statement
What
shot.
was you
the heck
thinking?
were you thinking? Because we had an incident at Morse in a summer league game. I don't know if you guys remember it. We were playing Darren High School, and they had a nice little guard, like O'Brien kid or something. And I got a steal from him, and he didn't run back on defense, and I stopped and shot a 3. And I made it, but Coach Page had some choice
Let you know.
words for me on that one. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those you punch them in the chin, you know?
Yeah. Well,
I
I'm
had
pretty
to-
sure everybody in the gym was going, no,
Oh,
yes.
yeah. And there was literally traffic from both teams
Yeah.
just running by me,
Yeah.
you know, and it was a bad shot, but I think, you know, luckily it went in and it got us off and going. Set the tempo.
Let's back up a week on that 89 season, because there was a scrimmage before, maybe 2 weeks before the tournament, between the end of the season and the tournament, and which is Oceanside, Rockland, which was Oceanside now, came to town for a scrimmage. You remember it, Coach Page? Yeah. They were unbeaten, I think, that year.
Correct.
Very well coached team. Coach Elkington, a great coach. And I'll tell a story here in a bit about Coach Elkington talking about that 89 team. But they came to town for a scrimmage, and I think they thought that there wasn't going to be anybody in the gym. We had a packed gym, and they weren't real happy about that, Coach.
Yeah, Chris was sick that day too. You probably don't remember that, but I know he was under the weather that day, and that may have affected his team. But we ended up on top in that scrimmage. So
You did?
yeah, we did.
In front of a full house.
Yeah.
I think that may have been the first scrimmage I ever saw where the place was a packed house.
Yeah.
Oceanside Rockland was not impressed.
Well,
But everybody at Lincoln Academy gym was real happy, except for the. Did that give you any insight to what you guys were gonna see in the state championship if you saw those guys? Because I think it was almost decided beforehand it was going to take somebody an awful good night to beat either one of you guys before the state game. I mean, it's almost like predetermined. I didn't think anybody was going to beat Oceanside or Rockland on the eastern side of the ball. Did you, Coach?
yeah, but when you got a team that you believe in, and if you do the right things, you believe you can win any game. And these guys had that belief that night.
it was hard to follow that stuff. I don't know about you guys, but I knew they were good from when we
Big,
scrimmaged them, but I wasn't able to follow them during the season. I mean, we literally every day we went in, we had to pick up the Portland Press Herald
Yeah, it's definitely not like
to see what
It is
was,
today.
what was
like
going
it
on.
is
So
today. I
we
mean,
didn't.
I can remember going to the library when the heel points would come out on
Yeah,
I think
Tuesday.
Tuesdays
Once
or
a week.
something.
Once
We'd
a
all
week.
go up there in the library and look at the heel points. That was the
Yeah.
only way we could look at them.
So I didn't know what was going on in the East. I knew they were good because we had played them coming up through, and I got a taste of Rockland when we were sophomores, and he brought our team over there to scrimmage the Gargan, Kavanaugh
They had a good team.
and I never felt like I had been more manhandled in my life.
Yeah.
And I said, "Man, you got to toughen up, kid.
Yeah.
This is high school basketball now."
Yeah.
And when we played them, they were tough, and I knew it was going to be a tough state championship.
At two
They're
different
tough
tempos,
kids.
though. He played that Princeton offense there, slow down and a lot of back cuts
Yeah.
and stuff, and you guys were running and gunning.
Yeah.
And like you said, you got your tempo
Yep.
right from the start. Chuck, what did you take out of it from being the JV coach, trying to get your kids ready to move up another notch?
Well, I think that Coach Page let me focus a little more on the defensive end when I was assisting with the varsity kids. So that helped me to formulate those concepts and be able to share them back down with the younger kids later on.
Interesting. What I thought, you went to Georges Valley last game of the season that year.
The next to the last.
Was it the next to last? The last
Yes.
game? Next to last?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
That didn't go the way you'd planned, Coach.
That was a good team.
That was a good team, too.
Yep.
Do you think that maybe helped you going into the tournament?
I don't think there's any question about that.
I
Yeah.
think so, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a Bobby Strong coach
Matter
team.
of fact, we didn't play Halldale all that well.
But you
in the
won
last
that game.
Right. Yeah. So we weren't clicking going into the tournaments, the last two games.
We certainly were clicking through that run, the '89 tournament team.
Yeah. And
Tournament
here I
teams.
am worried that these kids didn't even win the conference title, and I was worried these kids might not come up with anything with all the hard work we've put in.
You proved them wrong, guys.
Yeah.
We were a close team, and I mean, we were tight. And
You
after
were.
that Georges Valley, we got together and talked, and we knew we had to change some things, figure some things out, and we did. And I mean, I know when I moved up to Great Salt Bay, one of our classes, 5th, 6th grade, we had it figured out where we were playing the state championship when we were seniors, because they did the odd year, even year, and we knew the girls where they had played in '82, so we knew where we were playing it, and that was our goal.
The '89 season was such a special season in schools. I think that until you win a state championship, and especially Lincoln Academy, which has not been known as a huge basketball school, like McDomick or maybe Gorham or some of these other schools around the state, but to win your very first one, and then have 2,000-point scorers. Special night. You got one scores in the first quarter and the other in the second quarter, and the floor is covered with toilet paper. I'm not sure that the fathers of Lincoln Academy thought that would have been a cool thing to do, but I thought it was hilarious.
Erskines were good sports.
It was good sports.
Yeah.
Well, it was crazy back then. I mean, you look at some of the old tapes, and I think the second time we played Boothbay, of course, we did girls varsity, boys varsity. The gym doors were shut at halftime of the girls' game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more people coming in.
They allowed a few people, I believe, on the stage that
Oh,
night.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we did.
Which
That's-
people stacked up as we pulled.
Yeah.
When we got there, there were people stacked up trying to get into the gym.
That's always kind of
That's how it was. And I have friends that I used to. Tim Bonson's a good friend of mine, and he still talks about a couple friends from Wisconsin.
Sure.
The crowds in that gym, they just loved it.
It's a small gym,
Yeah.
certainly compared to today. Back in '89, it was a medium-sized gym for
Yeah.
the high schools and whatnot.
And you could obviously, the students could get away with a little bit more than they can now, right? And it was a great atmosphere.
I remember with Matt Day, I think they were past him through the crowd.
Yeah, McGuire.
I'm not sure you get away with that today, Coach. You?
Probably not. Yeah.
We had kids too that were basketball kids coming up that when our class came, listen, we bumped some upperclassmen out of the basketball program
Yeah.
that still were major supporters of our basketball program. Jim Moody and some of those kids who kind of fell to the wayside were just huge fans of our basketball team. And I mean, they had to move the LA Zoo from the little section across the way, and they took up half the gym on the other side where the players sit now. That's how big it got for the student body.
Yeah, that's probably today's basketball world. That probably is the biggest thing that's lacking, I think. And it's not just any one particular school. A lot of schools, there's not a lot of student support like there has been
Yeah.
back 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is, Coach.
Yeah, we lacked the rivalries we used to have. I mean, we had great rivalries. Booth Bay, Erskine, Richmond, you name it. Every game seemed like a rivalry game, and we've kind of lost some of those rivalries.
I agree.
Yeah.
Lincoln Academy, you've wore a lot of hats up there. Teacher, athletic director for one time, assistant athletic director.
Yeah.
Do whatever it took. Next man up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You just when you're there in a place for 40 years, you get your tentacles into many different places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chuck, did you teach at Lincoln?
No, I subbed there a couple of times. Yeah, I was in and out that way. Yeah.
So your connection was all in coaching, not necessarily. Does it make it harder to coach when you don't see the kids all day?
Yeah. Yeah.
His dad was a big-time coach in Massachusetts. Big time.
Yeah.
But I guess having Coach Page in the school keeps an eye on things anyway.
Yeah. I think we met on an adult Tuesday night basketball or something. We
Yeah.
got talking
Yeah.
about coaching, and
Yeah.
he said, well, maybe you could jump in the JVs. And
Yeah.
that's how it started.
Yeah.
We're getting up and down the court with the men's pickup games. And that's
Well,
how
for a
we did
full
it.
disclaimer, he and I started at Lincoln Academy at the same time. I was his
Did you?
freshman coach.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And was Chuck the JV coach then when you started? Who was the JV coach the first year?
Oh, wow.
I can't remember because I was trying to think myself who was the freshman. Any of you guys remember who was the JV coach?
No, when he started. I
No,
know
when
we
he
had
started.
Fred Bopp as
We
a
had
freshman
Fred
coach.
Bopp.
You were
Bob
there.
was the-
And then you were the JV coach.
You
I
were
was the JV coach?
Yep, you
Yep.
were
Yeah.
our JV coach.
I thought I was freshman coach. I
No,
know I
you-
started as
no,
freshman
you-
coach,
you
then
had-
I moved up
you
to
had
JV.
Gleason and those guys. And
Because you used to
You were
take
at-
Howard and I sophomore year, and we'd played at home, and then we'd strike it for the varsity game wherever it was, and you'd take us.
I know the team I had you on, we were really good. And the only team that beat us was Wiscasset. That was bad coaching on my part. Doggone Wiscasset.
And I will say the thing about swinging back then, from JV to varsity, is the uniforms were kept with the team the whole time. So the managers, that was their job, to have a trunk full of uniforms. And if you got there last, you got the largest pair of shorts there was. You almost didn't want to go in the game because you was either got to catch the ball or hold your shorts out.
whatever time you got there, it could be 2 minutes into warm-ups, 2 minutes into the game. It was,
Oh, dear.
Yeah, fun stuff.
I tell my wife about that, and she said, I just can't believe that's how they did it. I said, that was the way they did it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Jumped in a car and smoked it back.
Yeah.
You had your same top, but you didn't have your same
Yeah,
bottoms every
right.
game.
You had your number
So-
to go, you know. They kept it with you. And
And that's funny. And there's always a kid, and Coach, I'm sure you've had several of them, that either forgets his sneakers or has two left shoes or something. I'm sure you've got some stories.
Yeah, well, they didn't have to worry about the uniforms because as I did, he washed them, he cleaned them, and the manager took care of them. They brought them to the game with them in that chest that I still have, by the way.
Do you?
Made it- Oh, yeah, I still have the chest.
The
Yeah,
trunk.
yeah, the trunk, yes, the trunk. So they didn't have to worry. All they had to worry about was their shoes, and so.
You ever had anybody forget theirs?
No. No, I don't think so. Not that I.
they'd
can
only
think of.
forget him once, I'll tell
I'm
you that.
just waiting for one of you guys to say.
That
How many
was-
laps of that around the gym
Yeah,
take?
that was established way before we
Suicides
got to
were-
the uniform time. Ask Kevin about free throws one time in there.
Yeah. I remember it.
Okay, tell us about the free throw.
Well, the athletic director or coach's room that we have down in the corner was had a telephone in it, and Coach Page had a call to make or to receive or whatever, and he goes, "Okay, we're going to get into free throws. Let's get going on that." So, free throws are a very important part of the game, and Coach Page is very serious about everything that we did at practice. So. We were shooting free throws, and I kind of looked into the corner. I was at the far end. I looked in the corner to see if Coach Page was watching, and I decided I was going to flip one up underhand. Well, I couldn't see that he was watching from the dark corner because the lights were off in there, and I flipped that up underhanded, and he was, needless to say, a little disappointed, and came out and decided I should run up and down the court till he was done telling me, and I can tell you it was 84 times. And I can tell you when he invited me back into practice, the next drill we did was 444, which was probably one of our toughest drills because our practices were harder than some games. So I slept well that night.
These are fond memories.
Oh yeah.
Well, and that's what Kevin talks about our practices. Like, we were lucky, and we had Jeff Bradbury and Coach Page. It was kind of a treat when we got to a game. It was easy,
That was easy, Barrett.
And we had, like John said, 8 or 9 seniors on that team. We had kids that didn't play on our team that could have started for a lot of teams we played. And so every practice was the real deal. And Coach Page was great. It wasn't always the starters against the second team. He mixed it up, which I think is great.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of coaches don't do that.
Yeah. No sense beating up on the second team all the time. That doesn't accomplish anything.
No.
Coach, moving on past but you had some great teams after your state championship title. Talk a little bit about it into the 90s.
Oh, yeah. We only one season we didn't make the tournament, I think, beyond the 1989 team. You look at Ben Kelsey and I think of him in particular. The guys around him were good players. Trying to think the years. 93, I think, is the only year we didn't make the tournaments, but unfortunately never got it beyond the quarterfinals after that. So, come on, guys, help me out with some names, some players. What's that?
Matt Cousins.
Matt Cousins came in. Yeah.
Justin Drake.
Yeah, Justin Drake, 1,000-point scorer. Oh, yeah, that's a team that worked very hard.
How many 1,000-point scorers did you have in your career? I know you had Chris and Kyle.
Yeah, but after that, none, because they all came after me. Chris Howell, Justin Drake, Cody Tozier. I'm trying to think if there were any other guys besides them.
Gabe Hager.
You got to remember back
Gabe
when
Hager.
Gabe Hager, yeah, she's the most recent one.
Yeah, Gabe's the most recent one, yeah.
there were some big schools that were in Class B at that time.
Yeah.
Gorham's and Greeley's.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Gorham was tough back in the
and-
80s. They were always there.
and a lot of that time, they were only taking 8 teams.
Yeah.
They were the one
And- and-
seed.
If you slipped up in the mid-main
Who were the two?
conference and did get some key wins, like you had to
You were a B
maximize
school
those
playing
points.
in a C conference
Yeah.
for the most part.
C and D.
C and D, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luckily, I think Richmond was always good. They were a D school.
Competitive.
They're very competitive.
Yep.
They were always and so was Booth Bay and Wiscasset.
Yep.
Always in the hunt. So
Georgia
you had some
Valley.
tournament points, but
Yep.
it would have been a lot better if they'd been B schools.
Yep.
A lot of pride in the mid-main conference with those teams
Yeah.
we played.
It was a great conference.
Yeah.
a great
Soccer,
conference.
I mean, the same athletes were competing
Yeah.
against each other,
Yeah.
primarily.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you got one state championship in soccer, right?
Yeah.
You should have had 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll
Those
never
sting,
forget the
yeah.
trip from behind. You had a breakaway and they tripped you
Yeah.
from behind and no call.
Yeah. Well, Jeff always he said you should have went down.
Oh, that's right, you
It's
didn't
not,
go down.
It's not
Yeah.
my style, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to stay up and score, you know.
Yeah. We had a
But-
great time. And
It
that's
was, it was. I mean, if you think of what was going on at that school at that time, even with some of the girls' programs.
Oh yeah?
I mean, that the first state
87
championship
year.
we got, the girls'
Field
field
hockey.
hockey state championship,
The first year of girls soccer went to the state
state
championship.
championship, and we were in it. So,
All that one year.
I mean, you look at the banners in that gym around the late '80s. There's some good things going on there.
There were. And we have had a lot of them on film.
Yeah,
That was all tape delayed,
Yeah.
but we were on Lincoln Academy is one of the only schools that was tape delaying.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What was it like for you behind the camera that '89 year
Well,
on that run?
probably looking back on it, at the time, you don't understand what an honor it was, what a lot of fun it was. It was just an incredible amount of fun. And look who my sidekick was, Jeff Bradbury. I mean, was there a bigger character at
Right.
Lincoln Academy? You know, so I mean, we just had a ball doing it. It really was. And you know, my little part of it was talking about it. And one of my favorite memories was not even about the game, but being at the state championship game in Augusta. And I don't know if I've ever told you guys or not. Jeff and I, and we had Wayne Pinkham set in with
Yeah,
us.
Wayne.
Oh, yeah.
So we go up on the second balcony there, and we're on the platform, we're setting up, and the local ABC affiliate comes over, and he says, well, I'm supposed to sit here. And Wayne gave him an adult lesson in going down to find your own place to set up. And they had paid for their spot. And the cameraman never said anything, and so he just walked off, and it was like, we didn't know the difference. We're at mid-court, we got the best seat in the house to call the game, and I don't know where Channel 8 wound up going, but they didn't get that seat. And we're going to get it, because I think Bradbury and Pinkman were going to fight him anyway, so I just going to stand back and let the big boys go. But that was, like, who are you, Channel 8? This is LCTV. We're going to do this game. So,
Well, we were fortunate you guys did that because there's a lot of times I'll put that game on and I fast forward to after we won it, and I see Kevin's mom there. I see people that have passed now.
Oh, yeah?
That we have them there, and a lot of parents and I mean. If you remember when we won it, the stands just piled over the floor. We looked like we had never been there before,
And I don't think one left until after the awards were given out.
Yeah.
No.
No.
And the bus ride home was something else because of the ice storm.
Freezing rain, yeah.
Yeah. That's right, too. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we all had to go to Coach Page's house afterwards and clean out his freezer with popsicles and ice cream sandwiches. And
Well, and now that we're in our 50s, you just and we've all been around the game. Those things are so hard to get.
They are.
And the best team does not always win.
That's how true that is.
You need a couple breaks along
You
the way.
need a little bit of luck. Earnhardt said, I'd rather be lucky than good.
They're hard to get.
And
They're hard to get.
yeah.
And people ask me, which is more important to you, your 1,000 points or the state championship? And I said, you could take the 1,000-point stuff and take it right out of my life. That one I share with a group of guys that, we earned that one.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people going into that state championship, I think, that didn't think we had a chance of beating that team.
Well, because I think thought that he hadn't played a tough enough schedule.
Yeah.
I think would probably be the mantra there.
And I can tell you the worst place you could put us is in an underdog situation,
Yeah.
this group. I mean, we had tough kids. Tough kids.
Did you feel that way, Coach? Going into the tournament that maybe your schedule hadn't been tough enough?
No. I trusted the work that these guys had put in. And like I said, it's had a belief that we could win any game if we did the right things, don't make mistakes. The 4-1 mental aspect that we always talked about was 3-1. Then Kyle said, "No, coach, it's 4-1." Physical. So those are the things that give you the confidence that take care of the ball type things. Those are what get you through.
Well, and a lot of people didn't know what we did in the summer and where we went in the summer.
Yeah.
We
It was a different time
we
frame,
didn't
too.
hang around the Mid-Main Conference.
No.
We were down in Portland playing
Right.
Played
some
the
tough teams.
Gorham. We played Gorham.
a lot. Kevin Jenkins coach teams.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We'd play Art Dyer's team every year at Westbrook.
Yeah.
And it was just,
That was a dogfight.
as soon as you went in there, you just pack your lunch, man, and get ready to roll.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough.
Morse won the A that year. We played them.
Played them.
in the summer.
Yeah.
Beat them.
Yeah.
Played the USM JVs in the fall.
didn't know that.
We were
Yeah.
invited down to play
Yeah.
them, and we
Yeah.
ended up beating them in a scrimmage.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, I was pretty tight with Bob Brown. It was a pleasure to have worked under him. And,
Yeah.
Another great coach.
Yeah.
We all steal little pieces and parts from all these great coaches.
Yeah.
This was a group, if you told us we couldn't do something, we were going to prove you wrong.
Well,
And like Kev said, Kev hit it perfect. And it's anyone that asks me, how did you win that? What's the difference with your team from other teams? Everyone knew their role.
yeah.
Everyone knew their role and accepted it. There's no drama on our team. Zero.
yeah. I think watching the team, you could see that, though.
Yeah.
You know, Johnny would come up with a big three or a steal. You could almost count on every game. Sometimes it was a turning point in a
Yeah.
game. You know, in the break with the rebound, the ball to Chris, Kyle breaking off the wing. I mean, that was patented play.
Kevin and Adam get the ball out of bounds.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look back at the Lisbon team we played, this is a perfect example. I think we were up 20-something to nothing towards the end of the first quarter. They came down and scored, and you could see the relief in their team. Kevin takes it out, does the North Carolina sideline fast break to me, to Kyle. Kyle's doing a layup before their kids hit
They're
the
still high
three-point line.
fiving at the other end of their first bucket.
You know,
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and we didn't.
simple fast break, but no
Yeah.
one could stop it. Simple
We-
back door we play had, no one would stop it.
We didn't have a lot of set offenses. We had a motion offense and 5 plays off from it, but You know, we figured if we played good defense, we didn't need an offense.
Offense came off your defense.
Well,
And
imagine-
every time we tried to slow it down at the end of the quarter for the last shot, we'd lose it. You know, so you know,
said-
we tried
I
to
said-
slow down for 25 seconds, and we couldn't do it. So
Coach, why do we want to take the last shot when we can take 3 and stop them twice? You know.
Score first and score last in every quarter,
Well,
and you win.
it is key.
You
It
win.
is key.
Yeah.
Any other special memories that you'd like to share here, guys?
I guess one I'd like to share is up in Hull. There, we went up there and played, and it was 37-33 at halftime. And we went in the locker room, and we might have got good talking to, and we came out won 108-60, and we scored 71 points in the second half.
Words of wisdom must have set in, huh?
Yeah,
He had 5 guys sitting at the sideline for about 5 minutes, and I said to these guys, "Don't let that ball go out of play. We're not done. Don't let it go out of play."
If you remember that night, I didn't bring 4 of the swingmen so they could get some more JV
That's
time.
right.
in,
Yeah.
So unfortunately, in that situation, we had our studs in most of the game.
Well, that's a year. If you did some things like other teams are doing nowadays, we probably could have had 100 how many times?
Well, the three-point
Yeah.
shot wasn't as prevalent as it is today.
Yeah.
I mean, in the high school game, you're putting up 33s a game, for
Right.
gosh sakes.
Right.
You know, and that didn't happen in Copage's team.
Right.
Unless they went in. You know, that just didn't happen.
No, my son plays at Farmington. They regularly shoot more 3s than 2s.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Regularly.
What's your thoughts on the three-point shot there, Coach?
The game has changed. Can't say I like it 100%. The post game has disappeared unless you've got a tremendous post player. If you're watching on the college level or high school, unless you've got the big guy that can really consistently score, you don't see much of it anymore.
No, you don't.
I would have liked to have some screen and rolls on the ball for Kevin. Give me some screens
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah.
Because that was one of his. You didn't screen the ball.
Yeah.
screen.
No,
Yeah,
no
that's
ball
right.
screens.
No,
No
yeah,
ball
correct.
screen.
and don't bring your man to the
that's-
ball side if the guy's
I mean,
posting up.
Yeah, that's everything now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's so much
Yeah.
screen the screener out on
Yeah.
the perimeter now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess something that wasn't on the court that I don't know if these guys remember, but we never came out onto the floor first. We always let the other team come out onto the floor first. And I remember sitting up there playing Gorham in the Western Maine Finals, and the clock just kept ticking and ticking and ticking, and we weren't going out.
weren't going out.
And
They
it got
weren't
down
coming
to
in.
like 12 minutes and something, and finally they went out, and we came out after them.
Little head game going on
Yeah.
between coaches, anything?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that was kind of our thing as a team. We wouldn't go out.
we wouldn't go
until
out.
the other
so,
team.
And same guy led the team out.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we. stayed-
Kevin, you got some special thoughts?
Yeah, oh, sure. I'll go with the night the lights went out. Chris wasn't having a very good game. You should also know that Chris had quite a head of hair on him. And the lights went out, and I hear Coach Page screaming, "Where's Chris McKinney? Where's McKinney? Where's McKinney?" And Chris is kind of standing to my right, kind of crouched down, and Coach is feeling heads. And Chris had this big, good size head of hair on him at the time, and he finally got his ear and got his head as well. But yeah, it was that was kind of a funny thing. And there was also the night at Monmouth. Todd was our ball boy, Coach's son, and we did not play well in the first half there. And every halftime, Todd would come down, he'd bring waters, he'd have the ball, balls ready for us for the second half. And Coach comes downstairs after talking to his assistants and into the locker room, and I remember him. He goes, "Todd, upstairs now," and away Todd went. And I knew when he
It wasn't going to be good?
Yeah,
There was no Todd. Stay, please.
right. Please
Todd, hold on.
But he gave us a pretty good chewing that night too, and we responded as well that night.
They're making you out to be kind of a hard guy at halftime. Things weren't going good, Coach.
Well, that's just the way things were done in those days. That's the way things were done in those
It's
days.
still done that way. Yeah.
I tell my kids, you don't know you're doing something wrong unless they tell you.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You can't candy code it.
Yeah.
Can't
You've had a
candy
great
code
run at Lincoln Academy, though, Phil.
Yeah.
Some highlights besides this great '89 state championships team. You're involved in like everything down
Yeah,
there.
I mean, it's just watching young people and trying to do what you can to help them Yeah, I can't, I was an AD for many years, but I took as much pride into helping every team be as successful as it could be, whatever I could do. Staying involved with the program, with the youth program. But the 80s were very good to these guys. I mean, it was just a great time to be there, but it's a great school. Yeah.
And you've worked under some great headmasters,
Yeah.
starting Mr. Dexter,
Yeah.
who was our principal when
Right.
our sophomore year,
Correct.
because we was Nelson Bailey the freshman
He
year.
was. We were his last freshman class. Yeah.
We were?
Yeah, Nelson Bailey's last.
Right,
year.
yes.
Nelson Bailey's last
Yeah.
freshman. Yeah.
And you worked under Art Dexter for how long?
Maybe 2 or 3 years.
And then who was that? Chris Frost after that?
Chris Ackerman, Jim Ackerman came in, but
That's
he
right.
wasn't there long.
That's right.
Yeah,
And Chris Frost,
yeah,
Howard Ryder,
yeah. Jay Pinkerton.
Don't forget Gary Benson for a year.
Yeah.
Gary
yeah,
Benson for a year?
Yeah, Gary came in as
Yeah.
a 1 year interim.
yeah.
We had a few.
We had 3 in
We
4
had 3
years.
in 4 years.
Yeah,
You
oh,
did?
that's, yeah, yeah. You guys, that was quite.
Who was the principal when you guys graduated?
Frost.
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 How long was Chris there for?
5 or 6
5 or
years.
6 years?
Yeah, yeah.
I won't ask you who your favorite was because I think I know Mr. Dexter probably has a special place in your heart.
Yeah, well, he's the one that hired me.
Yeah.
So I was up on the track field, running around. He came across from the house and said, how'd you like to coach JV basketball at Lincoln? I said, okay.
That's right. I forgot. You came over as the JV coach.
I
You didn't
did.
come over as the varsity coach the
Right,
first year.
that's right.
You came over as JV coach the
Had a very
first year.
successful JV season.
Yeah. And it was the next year you took over the varsity
That's right.
program.
That's right.
That's right. It's all coming back to me now.
Yeah.
Well, that whole situation was perfect. I truly don't think we would have won that state championship if the coaching carousel didn't work out how it did at the academy with
I would
our, with
agree
our
with you.
coaching staff.
Yeah, I would agree
Because,
with
you know, we were a good little team, but like, you know, I look back at Coach Page. I grew up where I didn't have a father figure in my life. So when I started playing for someone like him,
you. You found one.
it was a lot of bashing. And I look back at it now, and I needed that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he was a big part of my life.
Oh, yeah.
And there was times where, you know, I left the gym, not on my own. He'd send me out and come back moping the next coach, can I come back? You
Yeah.
know? Because my mom would tell me, man, this is just, you're not obligated to play that, right? This is a luxury that you get to play for Coach Page. So you better go in and apologize to Coach Page and see if he'll take you back. So,
Little humble
so
pie
we-
never hurt
yeah,
anybody.
yeah,
huh?
and I needed it, right? And everything worked out well, you know?
I set the tone in the JV level. I took Mike King's practice one day. This was a nice little story. And it was a Saturday morning practice. I always practice Saturdays. And for some I asked to take him or whatever it was. I was the JV coach. And, okay, time for a minute drill. And Jamie Hilton and your brother Dickie McKinney kind of running together up, talking to each other. And talked to Jamie about this. We said, that's not the way it's going to be. I think we did a minute drill, something like that. And I led into them big time. And I think they knew, because I was going to have them next year, I think they knew things were going to be different from that
Things were
point
gonna
on.
change.
Yeah, even though it was the tail end of the season, they weren't having a very successful season. But things started to improve that year, I believe.
John, you came from a basketball family. Your dad's a longtime super successful, won a state championship
Yeah.
in the early 80s. Talk basketball all the time?
No, not all the time. We had other stuff going on with the family business, and you know, and I was fortunate that he was the coach. So Saturday mornings, vacations, whatever, I got to go to practice with him and be on the sidelines and shoot. I'd get into drills with the girls if they needed someone else, and you know, and it was fun. And but he didn't. That wasn't his whole life, you know.
Didn't eat, sleep, and drink it.
No. And but all those teachers in that era, I mean, it was a close knit group of teachers, you know, like Bradbury and Coach Page. You know, summer ball we know they worked together so that there wasn't conflicting nights. You know, Sunday, Wednesday was soccer, Tuesday, Thursday was basketball, and then you had some other nights to yourself. But you know, it was great. You know, you said you had worked with Jeff, you know, doing the games for basketball, but he worked with you doing our soccer games.
Yeah, that's
know?
right
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you had Danger Zone. That was the big song you had on your.
Yeah.
Well, he had This Is It in basketball,
Yeah.
and we had to listen to it before every game. This is it, and he had the old cassette player he'd got out, and he'd push play, and out the door he'd go, and he'd come back in and say, "That's over already?" And he said, "Yeah, well, maybe some of the boys hit the fast forward button a few times to get the thing over with."
That was the theme song for the NCAA championships about 2 years ago, Kenny Loggins. That's
Yeah.
why I played that.
Yeah. Your dad was a big part of that 88, 89 team
just
too.
thinking.
Oh, yeah.
In the stands,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's tradition. It was tradition.
One-man band.
Sweet Georgia Brown. That was always fun. That was always fun. When Clevie got up to play the sax,
Yeah.
that,
Curve soprano.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was good stuff. Anything else, guys, before we wrap this up? I don't want to leave anything on the table here.
No, I think it's
Truly a magical
yeah,
season.
it was.
Truly a magical season. You've had a magical career at Lincoln Academy. Lots of memories.
Yep.
As we wind this down here, and it's been certainly a pleasure and an honor on my part. Phil and I go back 65 plus years now,
Yeah,
Phil.
that's correct.
We were dating ourselves a little bit.
Yep.
1958 was a long time away. But first grade right through seniors in high school.
Yep.
It is. It's like a marriage that you can't take this from us, right?
I'll tell you
Can't
guys a
take it.
story. I ran track 2 mile my junior year in high school. He was state champion. I think his time was like 9:30 or 9:40. Won a state champ.
No, my brother was a state champion.
champ.
I was,
What you ran the 2 mile though?
yeah, but then a mile and 880 my senior year. So.
Okay, I couldn't beat him. Couldn't even come close to beat him. And my best time was like 10:30 or 10:40 or something like that. I was like a minute behind him. And so my senior year is like, he's going to run track. I'm not going to go up there and run 2 miles every day. So I didn't run. He decides not to run the 2 mile. And a freshman, Bobby Hilton, comes in. He's winning in 11:15. And I was like, boy, what a dummy. I could have run,
decision.
could run the 2 mile. And a freshman is winning all these races in way worse than my best time. So, but a lot of fun memories. So that's going to wrap it up here, folks. It's been fun, a magical time, a magical career of a man that's a legacy at Lincoln Academy. Coach Phil Page, going to give it up. 44 years?
42.
42 years. 42 years at Lincoln Academy. That's quite a tribute. You don't see that very often. And I want to thank Kevin, my guest, Kevin Feltus, Johnny Pinkham, Chris McKinney, Chuck Wyman, and Coach Phil Page. I'm Larry Seidlinger. For a magical year at Lincoln Academy, we thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Don't know where, but we'll be somewhere.